All right, welcome to our spoiler-filled review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. And this movie is pretty polarizing with Star Wars fans, unlike the prequels, which were almost universally hated, and the original trilogy, which was universally loved. This one's kind of split down the middle. I really loved it. Dave, not so much. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to have a lot of spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie and don't want to know what happens, stop watching this now. Come back after you've seen it. Okay, so I think we're going to start off kind of when the First Order is chasing the Resistance. They kind of have them on the run. They've kind of tracked them through hyperspace, which a nice little Easter egg is in Rogue One. When Jen Erso is going through, she finds that they can track through hyperspace, or a project trying to learn. So that was a nice little Easter egg to have in there.
Yeah. Well, I was going to let you lead. So, but with as far as like when they get out of hyperspace and they're right behind them, and then they start this crawl to the next planet, I just don't buy that. I don't think that like the Imperial fleet or the First Order fleet or whatever, they can't go up there and just destroy these ships like they did. I mean, they get through, they get one, runs out of fuel, the medical ship, boom, gone. Right? Okay. It just seems like if they had their fleet there, they could just fight through the defenses of what 2 or 3 ships and just get done.
And they kind of addressed it, whether you believe their theory or not. But basically, the smaller ships were faster, and the turbo lasers didn't have enough energy once they got to them to actually penetrate their shield. So as long as they had fuel and could stay ahead of them, they could stay alive. Obviously, they didn't want to jump into hyperspace because that would take away their fuel reserves, and then they would be basically dead ships, kind of like the medical ship. So once again, I liked it. I thought it was a different way to approach, them running out and doing their separate missions. It's kind of time. They're waiting. They need to get back before the fuel runs out.
It seems kind of weak to me. That's all.
No, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to our opinions.
Our opinion.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Radio.
Yes.
Hold up. General Holdo. She doesn't reveal her plan to Poe, who's asking her directly, and then all she does is reference that he's been demoted, which I thought was kind of dumb because, that's what he does. He goes out there and
having been in the military, you disrespect a commanding officer, you get demoted.
Okay.
And that's what he did to Leia. So I understand why he got demoted.
Okay.
And I also think, to your point, she is in charge. She doesn't have to answer to a captain or commander or anything else. Would it have been wise to fill him in? Probably. They're all on the ship together. It's not like, there's going to be a spy letting them all know. But I also think, I thought they took this opportunity to let Poe grow as a character. Instead of, a main character in Star Wars always being right, which always seems to be the case. Luke leaving, Dagobah was the right choice. He did the right thing. It ended up working out. In this case, it was a main character being wrong. What he wanted to do wasn't the right thing, and he should have, I think he grew as a character and is coming into a leadership role because of it. He kind of has a better understanding of what it takes to lead not just a squadron, but an entire army or a resistance.
Okay, well, I'll give you that, but at the same time, it sent him off on a fool's errand that he didn't have to go on. Him, Finn, and what was her name?
Rose.
Rose. Their whole bulk of their story was completely unnecessary had she just told them what they were doing. We're going to this planet, and we're gonna hide out there. We're gonna be safe or whatever. That was the plan. If she had just revealed that in any way, they wouldn't have gone to the what's the name of the planet? Canto Bight, and met a completely useless character in Benicio del Toro.
Well, and we'll talk about that in the next section about this, but I think them going off in that side mission was important, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But before we head up to that, we probably should talk about Leia getting blown out of the ship.
Yeah.
I know you weren't a big fan of it.
Well, I wasn't, because if she could use her force to wake up and bring herself back into the ship, why couldn't she have used the force to shield herself from the blast, or why couldn't she have just been blown into another room and still been in a coma for the whole movie?
And she could have, but you also got to remember, she's untrained as a Jedi. Unless we find out something, between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, she never trained as a Jedi, so she wouldn't be as attuned to the Force as Luke or, someone who's been trained. So, she was just she was being, reactive instead of proactive. instead of putting a shield up, possibly not getting blown out of the ship, she was reacting to being blown out of the ship. Once again, wasn't my favorite scene, but I don't have an issue with it.
Okay.
Okay, and we really want to talk about the scene after the kind of the big chase when General
Holda. And she's famous. When General Holda put the ship into light speed into the First Order cruiser.
Yeah, the Superstar Destroyer, whatever it happened to be. I mean, I really think it was probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. It's so well done. They had complete silence when it was exploding, kind of the vacuum of space. No one can hear you scream. It was just, the entire movie theater when I was in there was silent because it was just, absolutely amazing. Rian Johnson really outdid himself.
That part I agree with. I did not like that at all. That was pretty.
Okay, next we're going to talk about Canto Bight, and I think this sequence is one of the most important storylines, of the new trilogy. They failed in every aspect of the mission, but lit the spark in the hearts of those kids, and they're going to be the future, the hope of the Resistance. They may have failed, but they showed by freeing all of those animals and kind of being nice to the kids. That's kind of
inspiring.
Yes, it's going to bring more people to rise up against the First Order, and they brought more people in by being, what the Resistance or the rebels are, fighting against oppression.
I didn't like it. I thought it was like, why, if you're saving the animals, why not try and save the kids? I mean, that's just how I felt. I do.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, they freed the animals, but they're still on planet because the only people that left the planet was Finn and Rose.
Yeah, so they'll probably get picked up again.
They're probably getting picked up again.
Yeah.
And, they couldn't fit any of the, slave kids on the ship either. But once again, they gave them hope. And that's been the reoccurring theme through Star Wars, is if you have hope, you have power. And that's probably going to come into play, maybe not in Episode 9, but, they're going to need, this movie ended with not a lot of soldiers left in the Resistance, so they're going to need to recruit. They need to find allies in the Outer Rim. So, wasn't perfect. I did like the fact that they kind of failed in their mission. It didn't succeed. You kept thinking they were going to, pull through and win the day, but they didn't. And, Benicio del Toro's character may have been a throwaway type guy. He got him on a ship, but he ended up betraying him at the end. Almost like a Lando Calrissian, only, he took off. Whether we see him again, who knows. But,
he could have been another Han Solo kind of character. He could have been. Like to go from like, I'll do whatever suits me to, you know what, I'm going to pick a side. I'm going to pick the right side. I'm going to help out. But, I thought it was going to happen until the scene where he just walked away and got on, and that was it. That was the last time we saw him.
And maybe now that he has the First Order's money, maybe he's going to use it to help the Resistance in the next movie. Maybe we'll see him again. Maybe it'll help. Or maybe he was just that. He's only in it for the money, and that's okay. There are people out there like that. He doesn't want to join either side. He doesn't want to be a part of the Resistance, doesn't want to be a part of the First Order. He's just going to be a smuggler and in it for himself. Always a possibility, once again.
I mean, in Star Wars movies, usually every character has some, they have at least a background story that, the hyper fans know. And then this guy is going to, all right, this guy has a background, he's going to be doing this. It didn't seem like he had anything. He's just they threw him in there.
No, not arguing that. That's, a good point. Once again, it may have been on purpose to kind of throw people off, thinking he was going to, turn at the end and help them, and he didn't. Mm-hmm. So it kind of made people rethink maybe how things are going to go.
Okay.
And I think also on that note, Captain Phasma died in this movie. Basically, Finn, they were fighting. She ended up falling through this thing. I'm sure she's dead. Maybe they'll try to bring her back.
We didn't actually see her dead, so they can do that. But I thought it was a lot of hype for a character to just kind of like Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi. A lot of hype, not a lot of action.
And I'm okay with her being gone. Not that I don't like Gwendolyn Christie. I think she's an excellent actress. But the fact that it's another armored sort of Boba Fett type character, I would rather in Episode 9 maybe come up with some new alien creature. It doesn't even have to be, necessarily, a Sith or maybe a dark force sensitive user, but maybe it's like a Bosk. I always liked him. He was my favorite bounty hunter. Yeah, he was awesome. But maybe it's something like that they introduce, where it's not an armored character. We get something different. So I'm okay with her being gone because we don't need another armored character.
I couldn't even get into her either way. I couldn't even get into the character either way, backwards or forwards. I'm gonna edit that out. I couldn't get into it because there was not enough character build up for me, so I couldn't care either way if that character was there or not.
Yeah, understandable. And then the last point, I kind of talked about earlier how they gave hope to these kids, and you see at the end of the movie where that kid kind of brings the broom to his hand using the Force. It looks like he's Force sensitive. And, the way he kind of looked off into the sky at the end kind of reminded me of Luke Skywalker from, A New Hope. So I thought that was a nice touch. I like the kind of, bridging the gap. We're going to get... I think this movie was a lot about forgetting about the past and bringing in the future. So, all that's happened.
Which is a repeating theme throughout the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on!
Now let's talk about the throne room battle a little bit. A lot going on there, like in the elevator. Rey tells Kylo that they're still good in him, kind of reminiscent of Luke telling Vader that in Return of the Jedi. Snoke reveals that he was the one who bridged Rey and Kylo's mind when they were talking all those times before, which pretty powerful, Force stuff. And with him ending up, dying in that scene, obviously Kylo turned on him. Was it part of his master plan? For such a huge character and so much talk about him, once again, he's kind of taken out early. Once again, I don't mind because it's, unexpected. Will we find out more about him? Is he going to come back to Kylo as kind of a dark side, Force ghost?
After death person.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't buy it. I think that we should have learned more about him. Like, he should have been the emperor of this series, I think. And, for all the build-up, like you said, there was not much there. They just dropped it off like it was nothing. And
well,
at the end of The Force Awakens, he says he's going to bring him back for more training. There was no more training. He just told him that he knows his mind, he's about to kill his enemy. Well, he did.
Well, and I think it goes to show how much Kylo has grown in power, too. Because Snoke was saying, I can read your mind, I know what you're going to do. But he had no idea. Kylo was able to hide the fact that he was going to basically ignite that lightsaber, cutting off his arm and killing him. So it kind of shows that Kylo's growing in power and maybe doesn't need his training. One of the things that I noticed is, we hear about the Knights of Ren during the whole Jedi Temple thing with Luke, but we don't hear any more about them. Is Kylo already reaching out? If you've read the Darth Bane series of books, the Rule of Two, where each Sith has an apprentice. There's a master and apprentice. Once the apprentice grows strong enough, kills the master. So is this the Rule of Two? Kylo killing Snoke, and now he's going to take his own apprentice? He was hoping it would be Rey. Obviously, that's not going to happen, so maybe it's one of the Knights of Ren. He's going to recruit one of them to be his side. And, once again, it went differently than I thought it was, but I'm not upset about it. I'm glad they kind of shocked me a little bit and did things that I wasn't expecting.
Okay.
I only know one truth.
Rey suddenly, she's very good with the Force without any training. She had basically 2 scenes of training from that island with Luke. And suddenly she was so much better with the Force. And maybe that doesn't bother you, but they spent the entire Empire Strikes Back training Luke to get to where he was. And,
I know people have called Rey a Mary Sue, that they, a character that just has all this power and none of the training. And maybe that's a little bit of the case, but, I don't think they showed us every scene on that island either. So maybe, there was lessons being taught that, we weren't privy to, which maybe we should have been.
Yeah, even a 30-second scene of them training would be better.
And she was, he has, I've seen power like this once before, and it didn't scare me now, but it does then. So, he senses great power in her. Where it comes from, we don't know. One of the things that was said in this scene too, which I think we should talk about, is, Kylo Ren saying, "Your parents were nobodies."
Yes.
So do you believe that they were nobodies?
I don't believe they were nobodies, but I think they should have thrown out some glimmer that they were somebody else. Like anything at the end. Like remember Guardians, when they're like, I'm glad we didn't deliver him to his dad like they wanted us to. Even that would have been better than what they did.
Well, once again, I think Kylo, one of the things with trying to lure someone to the dark side, you break them down and try to say, remember he said your parents were nobodies. They were drunks that sold you for basically drinking money. They're in a shallow grave now. They didn't appreciate you, but I do. Trying to build her up to pull her to the dark side. And, one of the things that theories on Rey's parentage is that she doesn't have parents. And what happened was, if you remember in Force Awakens, when she touched Luke's lightsaber, she went through all those kind of things. And they had Luke's lightsaber, which he lost at the end of Empire Strikes Back on Bespin. So what happened to his hand? We know cloning is something that happens in the Star Wars universe. They had an entire clone army in the prequels. What if Rey is actually a clone of Luke?
Oh, there's a theory.
And they use the hand, so she still has some of these latent memories of his training and his power. Now, would Luke sense that? Since he's a clone? I don't know. But it's one of those theories. So in him saying your parents were nobodies,
maybe they were.
Maybe they're not.
Yeah, maybe they're.
Because she was cloned.
Yeah. Huh.
Once again, just a theory. They did that. That'd be kind of crazy.
If they could tie that in, I think that might make up for a lot of stuff for me.
And I think the entire Star Wars, all 8 movies to this point, has been about the Skywalkers. And now, with, Carrie Fisher passing away, obviously Leia Skywalker Solo, or Organa Solo, isn't going to be a 9. Luke is dead. He's not going to be a 9. Ben Solo's kind of a Skywalker, but, I think it would be a way for them to continue the Skywalker saga. Whether they're going to do it or not, I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of fan theories going into The Last Jedi that proved wrong. So maybe this is one, maybe it isn't. We'll have to wait till episode 9 comes out. Okay, now the Battle of Crate, which happens when the fleet, or what's left of the Resistance, gets to this planet with this old rebel stronghold. And I really think this, kind of multiple viewings will help, because, the confrontation with Kylo Ren, you'll notice that Rian Johnson was telling us all along that the Jedi Master wasn't really there. His feet weren't bringing up the red sand, or red underneath the sand.
Didn't notice.
And he used the blue lightsaber, which was destroyed in the throne scene. And he looked, like a little younger self. He didn't look like the hermit that he did on the island.
Yeah, that's the first thing I said. I was like, he's got different clothes on, man. All right, go ahead.
And, he got to that planet rather quickly. They did tease the X-Wing was there but submerged. Mm-hmm. So they kind of teased like maybe he took the X-Wing there. But, I thought it was really cool that, they had that scene where he's standing out there and he's basically saying, come on. And they fire everything at him and he just kind of, brushes his shoulder off. I was like, oh, this is the Luke we've all waited for.
Yes.
And even though we didn't see this, immensely powerful Jedi in the sense that he was there with his laser sword, lightsaber, battling these guys, it did show how incredibly powerful he was
across the galaxy.
Yeah, push that image across the galaxy. It had some physical form because he was, dueling lightsabers with Kylo for a minute. So, I really liked that scene. It really, when we found out he was not there, I was pretty much, wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, I liked that. I was always waiting for Luke the Badass that I heard about. Like, he was the greatest Jedi ever. And when that scene happened, I was like, oh yeah, really cool. But how they ended it is what fell off a cliff for me. When he just went and fell off that rock, and that was it for him. That was like, come on, I need to see more Luke.
Well, once again, he used so much energy to push, his form over to that planet. He was exhausted. It's all he had. And he basically saved the Resistance at that point because they were able to escape out the back while he was, distracting the entire First Order with him. So he saved the day. He used a lot of power. And I really, I was fine. The Master always ends up dying in these because, the apprentice is never going to grow as a character if the Master's around to do all the fights. So I think it was necessary, and I I liked that when he was on that and he ended up passing out. It was the two kind of sons in the scene. It was really reminiscent once again of Tatooine from his humble beginnings. So I thought that was amazing. Rian Johnson threw a lot of throwbacks to the original trilogy, even some of the prequels. Luke referring to the Emperor as Darth Sidious and not Emperor Palpatine. It was just tons of Easter eggs, tons of throwbacks to things. I just once again I loved pretty much everything about this movie.
I did like Yoda. No, there are a few things I did like, but overall, let's try and wrap this go kind of quick here. I didn't like what were those, the Porgs?
Yes. Oh yeah, the Porgs.
A 90s alternative band there. No, I'm just kidding. The Pogues.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought they were just thrown in there just to be cute. I didn't like it. I don't like things like that. Just personally myself, if you're just throwing something that doesn't add anything to the story, just to be, oh, that's cute.
And they may something may come up with them later. They were on the Millennium Falcon.
And they were from the planet Luke was on. Maybe they're all like in tune with the Force. Who knows?
Yeah, they could be. And I think the only scene that bothered me about the Porgs was when Chewbacca cooked two of them up, and then felt guilty when they were staring at him and didn't eat them. I mean, they're already dead and cooked. You might as well,
eat them.
Probably tasty. They looked very tasty. So, and I also think one more, point. I think Mark Hamill did an incredible job. I think he has grown so much as an actor from A New Hope to this. Yeah. He was off the charts. I mean, absolutely amazing in this film. I was so impressed with his thing.
He was clearly a beginner in the first series, and now he's a seasoned veteran.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that's all we got for you tonight. Once again, if you like what you see, please hit subscribe, like this video, and Dave and I will be back. We'll be making other videos coming soon, so keep a lookout, subscribe, you'll get notifications, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you.